This naturalrefrigerants.com article is being read by an automated voice. Guide to Working with Propane available in English by Michael Gary, published February 10th, 2026. The textbook Propane, Naturally Safe, published last year in Norwegian and German, is now available in an English language edition. Authored by refrigeration experts Stig Rath and Harold Eros, the book is described as a best practice guide for heat pumps and refrigeration systems using propane and other A3 flammable refrigerants in commercial, industrial, and residential buildings. Rath and Eros also collaborated on the German edition, while Rath wrote the Norwegian version. To read an excerpt from the book and to order the English, German, or Norwegian editions, click here. The price of the book is €68, $80.35, plus shipping. A digital version is not yet available. The book is written for key target groups like operators, consultants, manufacturers, installation contractors, and refrigeration technicians, all under the motto, "Plan safely, install safely, operate safely," said Eros, chair of the Austrian Standards Committee for Refrigeration Systems and Heat Pumps, and founding member and chairman of the Austrian Association of Refrigeration. Propane, Naturally Safe is the first publication to offer a complete overview of legislation, standards, and best practices for the use of hydrocarbons in refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pump systems, said Rath, chair of Standard Norge, Standards Norway. Committee 033 for Heating and Cooling Systems in Buildings in a LinkedIn post. By following the guidance in this book, you can be confident that your installation meets all current requirements and is safe to use. System types covered include heat pumps and refrigeration systems in ventilated enclosures, systems in separate machinery rooms, air-to-water heat pumps and air-cooled chillers, air-to-air heat pumps and split air conditioners, brine-to-water heat pump, exhaust air heat pumps. The book offers practical safety knowledge, including risk analysis and explosion protection documents, as well as typical protective measures in everyday service. It also covers design criteria for system layout and sizing, as well as assembly, installation, maintenance, inspection, repair, and leak detection. The English and German editions offer information on EU regulations, standards, and directives, but not national regulations. Propane, Naturally Safe addresses the following questions. Is there a difference between heat pumps for commercial use and those for residential use? Are small charge quantities exempt from risk assessment? Is it unnecessary to prepare an explosion protection document for heat pumps? Does a hermetically sealed refrigerant circuit mean that no X-certified, explosion-proof equipment is required? Does ventilation mean that X-certified equipment is not required? Why is it problematic to use semi-hermetic compressors without EX certification, even if they are tight? Are possible and potential ignition sources exactly the same? Is there any legal requirement for ventilation of cargo compartments in service vehicles? Another textbook on natural refrigerants covering hydrocarbons, CO2, and ammonia is Natural Refrigerants, Applications and Practical Guidelines, available here. This book presents the experiences and techniques of industrial refrigeration and transfers them to commercial refrigeration applications. It covers the general conditions and legal requirements for the use of natural refrigerants, as well as the economic efficiency of the refrigeration systems. Widespread use of propane. In addition to being used globally in most commercial display cabinets, in Europe, propane is increasingly employed in commercial and industrial chillers, as well as in residential heat pumps and some home and auto air conditioning systems. The latest version, the 7th edition of the global IEC 60335-2-40, HVAC standard, approved in 2022 and used as a model by individual regions and countries, allows up to 988 grams, 2.2 pounds, of R290 in HVAC units located indoors or connected to the indoor space, such as ductless split ACs or ducted central systems. These are subject to room size limits and other equipment design requirements. It also allows 4.94 kilograms, 10.8 pounds, of R290 in outdoor/indirect systems, such as air-to-water monoblock heat pumps, among other limits. However, in the U.S., the use of propane in HVAC is limited by UL's most recent 4th edition of the 60335-2-40 standard, which restricts the use of R290 to 114 grams, 0.25 pounds, for all HVAC's residential and light commercial applications. The ASHRAE 15 standard also significantly restricts A3 refrigerant use in residential and commercial applications to less than 150 grams, 0.33 pounds, with any larger amount requiring approval by a local jurisdiction's code officials. Last October, UL held the first meeting of a new Technical Harmonization Committee, THC, to develop the fifth edition of UL 60335-2-40. It formed a working group on A3 and A2, mildly flammable refrigerants, to consider proposals to enable safe use of R290 and other near-zero emissions next-generation refrigerants. ASHRAE has also started an effort to increase the allowable charge of propane in heat pumps to 4.9 kilograms in outdoor/indirect residential heat pumps and air conditioners. 23 American states have passed legislation that would enable this use of hydrocarbons, in addition to A2Ls. Once UL 60335-2-40 and ASHRAE-15 are updated, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, SNAP, Significant New Alternatives Program, has approved. Last October, the EPA announced a proposed Rule 27 that would establish or update the conditions under which certain refrigerants, including hydrocarbons, would be allowed for new residential and light commercial air conditioning and heat pumps and other applications under SNAP. The Environmental Investigation Agency, EIA US, said in a report last October that it supports full harmonization of U.S. standards on the use of A3 hydrocarbon refrigerants in HVAC equipment with the global standard IEC 60335-2-40. This could enable 78 to 88% of new air conditioning and heat pump equipment in the U.S. to transition to propane between 2030 and 2035, according to the EIA.